I don't know. I mean, I guess all I can look at again is behaviours and you know, the way he's training and the way he's playing, and I think he's you know, he's handling it okay, but you know, I don't know that there's that much of a burden there to carry. Ultimately, like I said, this football club needed to change, and change is the only way you can instigate a different outcome. Sometimes that's not a better outcome, by the way. It could be a worse outcome, but there needs to be change. And you know, I think everyone at the club's got the grips that, you know, Harry's gone, and you know, he's gone off to a new challenge, and you know, I'm sure he'll do very well over there, and we've got our own challenge now. But that's, I don't think there's any usefulness in comparing yourself to something that's no longer here, and you know, is not really relevant anymore. Be different if it was on the back of a successful era, yeah. Because successful eras, you want some sort of continuation, but like I said, at some point there needs to be a breakage there of what people kind of perceive of you as a football club. So that change has happened, and it's not just about Harry, it's about everything we're doing. We're trying to be, like I said, you have to be different if you want a different outcome.
Just sticking to Richie from Harry, the cliche of our strikers is it's more of a worry if they're not getting chances than missing chances. You didn't really have many chances against United, a couple against Brentford, but you seem quite happy with the performance overall. Is it not a concern that your centre forwards are not getting so many?
2 games in, mate, come on. Geez, we love the big call, don't we? I just don't, I never live in that kind of moment where I judge things that quickly. And I get why others do. I get it, you know, he should be on 6 goals and top goal scorer in the league. And everyone said, look, he's going to replace Harry and he's going to score more goals. But, you know, you don't know at this point in time how many goals he's going to end up at the end of the year. You don't know. So why put a judgment? Like I said, I thought he played really well. He was a really good link-up for us, especially in the second half when we had the ascendancy. You know, if you look at the passages, back at the passages of play, he was an important part of that, you know, just holding the ball up, playing out wide, being a real presence in the box. I thought he was unlucky on a couple of occasions. I mean, it's come off the crossbar, a couple of scrambles that another day falls for him and he scores. So he's in those areas. So like I said, I don't look at it. It's the same as our form so far. I'm not looking at our form saying, God, geez, we're going to be unbelievable this year. It's 2 games, you know, and in those 2 games, there was some real positive stuff, but there's also a lot there that tells me we've got a long way to go. So, you know, I get why others sort of get emotional. It's an emotional game, but that's not the way I kind of look at it from my perspective. It's about, you know, I thought we needed to be strong as a team to get a result last week, and I thought Richie was an important part of that.
Just finally on him, I know it's only 2 games, but last season he described his own season in 4-letter words, and it didn't go very well.
Yeah.
Injuries. Straight honest of him. It wouldn't surprise me, based on that season, if his confidence wasn't at the highest. How have you helped him with that?
I don't know if I've sort of specifically helped him. Again, I think that's, you know, I was talking about it before. I think he's not the only one in that boat. I mean, you talked about, you know, Pape Sarr last year, you know, Basuma last year. You know, there's a lot of guys in that boat. And what I tried to do is, from the first day they walked in here, is to show them that it's a different place, and then give them the opportunity to see whether, you know, that helps them get to a good place in terms of their own confidence, their own self-belief. You know, so it's not just about targeting the individual, it's about the whole environment. And you know, they've walked into pre-season or whenever they've come back to the club and they've seen new coaches, new ideas, new way of training, and what you hope in that context is that all those guys see it, okay, well, here's an opportunity for me now to do what I want to do and have, you know, some self-belief. So it's not that I've, you know, I've had to do anything specific with him, because again, I don't want anybody coming into this year. I didn't want anybody with, you know, carrying the baggage of or the burden of anything that's gone on in the past. There's no point in that. You know, there's no. I come in with, you know, the energy that it's something new and something, you know, an exciting opportunity, and that's what I wanted the players to feel like.
Harry?
Can you say, Ange, about sort of things that we could have done better? Can you
like I said, I think, looking back at the game, my sort of general feelings after the game were that we looked a bit sort of nervy and edgy at the start, and I think that was the case when I look back at the game. I thought our structure was actually not too bad, but we were maybe rushing things a little bit in terms of our build-up play and in terms of maybe trying too hard to impress because it was our first home game rather than simplifying the game. And I think the most pleasing thing for me is when we brought them in at half-time. And like I said, I felt in the last sort of 10 minutes there was some really good stuff, and that's what we showed them at half-time, just a couple of passages of play in that last 10 minutes that, it showed it was working if we kept the game simple. And again, you like anyone, like any manager, you're trying to offer advice, but then it's, has that sort of registered. That's the key thing. And I just thought we had a really good energy from the start of the second half. There wasn't any kind of despondency in what they went through in the first half. Because it's fair to say, Man U had a couple of really good chances and we could have been a goal down. Not that meant we were going to lose the game, because we went a goal down at Brentford and we fought back. So, but within that context, it was about showing them, if we kept the game simple and stuck to our structures and kept working hard, that there was some opportunities. And I thought they took that sort of information really well. And I thought our first sort of 20 minutes of the second half was probably the best football we've played so far this year. It's only 20 minutes.
Are they trying to impress you, or are they trying to impress the fans?
Just impress in general. I mean, it's a first home game. You want to. Who doesn't want to? If you're going into a new not a new surrounding, but a surrounding where it's important. You want to put your best foot forward. So.
There's one quick one about Richie. Is that obviously, as you say, that a forward is not just about goals, it's about the contribution, about being aggressive. Is there a point now perhaps where it gets into his head, and would you intervene? Is there a point where you sort of say to him,
Yeah, if he's gone 20 games without a goal, yeah, for sure I'll have a discussion with him, mate. But not after 2 games, So, yeah, of course, there's always a point, but usually there's reasoning behind it. But I mean, but not 2 games. Look, I think if Richie was playing for another Premier League team and scored between 10 and 15 goals last year, like he did when he was at Everton, I think people were saying, why don't you go sign Richarlison? He's a proven Premier League player, so he's here. But I think I don't have that sort of, I don't look at it through the lens of last year. I just look at it through the lens of now, and we're 2 games into a season where I think he's helped us, in this early stage where our football's not where we need it to be, to get a couple of promising results, and hopefully that continues. But of course, there's always a point, but we're nowhere near that at the moment.
Darren, and then finish with George.
Just about yourself, Ange. You've talked a couple of times about your journey. And wherever you've gone, you've earned respect from people who initially doubted you. Do you think, well, I'll ask it in a different way, what do you think of the way Australian head coaches are perceived in Europe? Why is it that you always have to justify yourself?
Yeah, I don't think it's just Australian. I think, if you come from sort of a non-traditional, I don't even know if that's the right word, but what people sort of see as kind of football fertile ground. If you're not sort of European or South American, there is, I guess a stigma more against, your abilities and your experience rather than. I get that people say, well, okay, so you've won a couple of titles in Australia, well, what does that mean? Yeah, but I still had to win them. It was in a competition that was variable to what I was working with. You still need to win. It's the same when I went to Japan. I still needed to win against comparable opposition. At Celtic, we were successful, but you have to be successful up there. So, if I wasn't Australian, if I was of European or maybe South American background, and I've done all these things in nations here in Europe that maybe weren't even first-tier nations, I think people look at it different. But at the same time, like I said, it hasn't been like a millstone around my neck or anything. I don't worry about it or, cry. I've really enjoyed my career. I've loved my journey. I think it's made me, certainly given me the experience to make me hopefully a better manager and a better person in many respects, because it hasn't been sort of your conventional kind of football managerial career. I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it, and I think to me it feels like it's something that helps me wherever I am.
It's really strange because obviously down the road when Arsene Wenger went to Arsenal, around the same, most people said the same. Arsenal, and there is the idea that since then, 30 years on, we've all evolved and educated ourselves and we're back here again. It's like you said, one of the footballing powerhouses that you like in Europe, and that same thing exists. And do you get to a point where you just accept this almost you can only do you?
Yeah, I think so. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because I think it does help. Like I said, 30 years ago it was Arsene, but then with what he did as a football manager, it kind of, I think it helped the Premier League grow. I think that's the things. That's how you get growth by. And it's not always about looking further down the road. Sometimes it's right in front of you. There could be English managers here, right in front of them that they're missing because of whatever the current trend is or what they think is a model, and I've always liked people that I've always sort of been attracted to listening or to observing people and organisations that do things a little bit differently, that are prepared to look beyond just, what everyone else is looking at, just lift their heads a little bit or maybe look a bit left or right and see, because it doesn't have to come from Australia. Like I said, they could be in your neighbourhood, right there in front of you, and you're not looking at them because it doesn't fit a mould that somehow people think, you need to be to work at this level. So, and I think that's how you get growth. I think, by having, different people, people with different experiences, different journeys coming into organisation or into a competition, and then you grow, because all of a sudden then others start thinking the same way. Well, hold on a second, if they've done it, why don't we do something like that? And all of a sudden what seems left field becomes the norm, and it improves the space you're working in. So, hopefully, and I've tried to do that. I mean, to be honest, I faced a similar thing in Japan, because it was a different kind of, where, again, they play the game a certain way. They, and me trying to change that and provoke that a little bit, while being respectful to the fact that it's a fairly, there's some real strong values in that nation. I love that, but then you do it, and then people all of a sudden say, that's great, let's have more of it. So I've tried to do that wherever I've been.
With that in mind, you have looked left field, Europe would say, but obviously your knowledge is quite extensive in terms of Asiatic players. Where Atati did really well for you. That Celtic, one or two others as well. As you look to garnish what you've done already at Spurs, are you going to look into that market?
Yeah, again, I think it's not just me. You look at, people are raving about Mitoma. I watched Mitoma's debut in Japan. I was on the opposition bench. He'd come straight from uni, and in his first game destroyed us. I knew nothing about him. I said to my opposition guys, "Who's this guy?" "Oh, he's just come from uni." "Oh, how good can he be?" He's put his school books down, and he blew us away. Him and Hatate that day. We played Kawasaki, and we were champions. Kawasaki had finished second. We played in the first game of the year, and Hatate and Mitoma just blew us away. And this, like I said, this is a guy who's come from university straight into senior football. I did, yeah, but Brighton were too sharp for me, mate. So I ended up getting Rayo. But I said at the time, I said to the guys at Celtic, I go, because Brighton put him, I think in Belgium first year on a loan, yeah. And I said to him, "You watch this guy. When he hits the Premier League, he's gonna rip it apart." I knew, and again, that it's easy for me to sit here and say that, but I was exposed to that. That's what I mean, by having this different journey. And then all of a sudden that changed my thinking. I'm thinking, well, who cares? He's been at uni. Like, is there any other university players that are coming out that we can grab? And then that you take that sort of open-mindedness in your next role. And so when I went to to Scotland, I thought, yeah, I'm going to bring 3 or 4 Japanese. They're going to make it here. And people say, well, it's a bit radical. No, it's not actually. And I'm the same here, and it's not just about Japan, but just looking, when you're looking at players, just don't look at what everyone else is looking at, because you'd be surprised. To see a guy who comes out of university and within 3 years is, an unbelievable talent in the most difficult league in the world. It just goes to show you.
Sometimes, because Mataro Endo goes to Liverpool, maybe was at Francisco,
Yeah.
and they're quite underwhelmed because it doesn't cost a lot of money. But we're always seduced in European football, aren't we, by the big price tag. If he doesn't cost 50+ million pounds, everyone is stampeding behind him. Maybe he's not that good player.
Spot on. And that's where, there's obviously, there's a reason you pay sort of premiums for some players. You understand that the talent's there, but I don't believe that the best talent is just at that 50 to 100 million pound sort of market. There's some very, very good footballers, and if you're prepared to look beyond just what everyone else is looking at, you'd be surprised what you find.
But to ask just one more final one,
Yep.
there's been this misconception around this club that looks like going back to managers. I don't think I count you. So 43 million pounds on the centre half, 40 million pounds on the midfield. You brought back players that have signed. Destiny's done fantastic last week. You've got to be pleased with what you've done so far.
Yeah, look, wherever I've worked, I've tried to make sure that, going in, I've been really clear on, the way I work and the way I'm going to work, and how I sort of set things up to try and get success for that, for whatever club I'm working for. And I've worked for all different types of ownership models, and they've all been different. My role within that is to get a connection with the people who make the decisions, because I can't do this in isolation. I need everyone on board, and particularly when there's usually, and wherever I've gone, that's happened, a major shift in direction. If everyone's not on board, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So, I'm really pleased with the way people have sort of embraced the direction we're going in terms of the way we're working. I've brought in new staff that I've never worked with before, and that can make people uneasy within the football club. But the people who run this club were happy for me to go in that direction. So they're the kind of things I look for. It's not just about being backed with money. It's the manner in which you work. It's the authority you're given. And like I said, people who know me in my career, if I want something done, I usually get it done in my own way.
George, to finish, please.
And I just wondered who the new penalty taker will be.
That's a good question. I saw a few of them trying today. I think Sonny's up there. I think Matters and Richie are all sort of in there. Bissouma I've seen take about 500 and miss about 495, but he's still out there practicing. So I don't know, but I think it's somewhere in that order.
With Chase Madison hopefully being fit for tomorrow, in the opening day at Brentford, we saw some nice sort of links between him and Charleston. Through ball didn't just quite come off, but it was quite encouraging. Are you sort of seeing that more and more in training over these last few weeks? Is that something that's giving you a lot of encouragement in terms of Charleston?
Yeah, look, I am, but that's where I know that we've still got a long way to go, because there isn't that sort of understanding yet. Matters has been with us for a month. Two sort of Premier League games, and especially when you're talking about actually both sides of the game, attacking and defensive. A lot of it is understanding. Two centre halves need a good understanding. We've got Mickey and Romero have played 2 games together. The midfield setups need a bit of understanding. The front third, reading of how people play and their own idiosyncrasies within that. When to make a run, when are they going to put? Those things take time, and obviously you work on it in training, and you do. We at times our training's been really good, and the coaching staff putting on some brilliant sessions where you see it come to life, but it's not natural at the moment. It can't be. It's going to take. I don't know how long, but it'll take a while before it becomes natural. But I've certainly seen it, and if you're the creative player, say like Matters, you want to try and read Sonny's runs, which are different to, say, Kulusevski's runs, which are different to Richie's runs. And if you're those players, you know, you're looking for the cue when Matters is going to turn, or a Basuma's or a Pape Sarr's going to make a run that means you're involved. All those kind of things, you know, those relationships take time. But, you know, I haven't, you know, I've been pleased in I think our attacking play is the area where we've got much more improvement to do, but I have seen some really good signs early on.
Just finally, in terms of that attacking area, obviously a lot of focus on Richie. What have you made of Sonny and Kulusevski's sort of first two appearances, obviously early days?
Yeah, no, I think, you know, they're growing into it again. They've been asked to play differently from the past, and you know, again, it's not one where you know, you even though they're experienced, really accomplished players, you know, in Sonny's case, sometimes they're the hardest ones to work with if they're not sort of open-minded, because they'll turn around and say, well, mate, I've made a career out of playing this way, and, you know, a very good career. Why should I change, you know? So that can be a real difficult task for me coming in, but he's been really good at just, you know, understanding the role and the way it's different from last year. And I thought last week both of them had some really good moments. And I think as a team, that's where we're at. Well, we're going to have good moments. I mean, I'd love for us to have a sort of really compelling performance this early in the season, but I just think at the moment, if we can grasp on those moments individually and collectively, and then grow from there, then I think we'll be, you know, we'll be in good shape. I'll give you my story of the week. I met 𝐼𝐸 yesterday, absolute legend of the football club. And growing up in Australia, you know, that time of him and Ricky Villa, I mean, you know, we were sort of like, we held them up as kind of idols. We weren't Tottenham supporters, but just players who you just go, wow. And when I got the job, one of my best mates said, you know, you got to get a photo with 𝐼𝐸, you know. So I was wrapped yesterday, but he was also my go-to trivia question, because when we were growing up, we had a famous Australian footballer, Craig Johnson, who played for Liverpool and won the FA Cup. And he was icon again, the FA Cup Aussie. But before that, my trivia question was always, who was the first Aussie to win an FA Cup? And they always used to say Craig Johnson. It was 𝐼𝐸. And just to further my unique football journey, the person who told me that joke was Sir Bobby Charlton. He came out to Australia for a soccer clinic, and that was the joke he told me, and it's stayed with me ever since. So there you go. All right.
Thanks, guys.